Servus, Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again. I wish all of you a happy new year 2023. I hope you all got well and healthily into this next current year. And of course, I want to relate to you what happened in my dear home country of Germany on New Year's Eve. Maybe one or two of you have already heard a little bit about it, and it is, well, shocking, sad, and in a way hilarious at the same time. If you follow me on Telegram, you already know that I predicted that this was gonna happen, and I'm not really proud of that. It is not a hard prediction to make. I normally don't make predictions, but this was really easy because it is just like a chemical reaction. If the temperature, the pressure, and the right elements and compounds are in place, you know exactly what will come out. So in today's video, I will go over the facts as far as they are officially known so far, and also I will tell you what I've seen on the original footage that you can easily find online. There are no secrets about that. Then I will go over the desperate attempts of our government, our state, and our mainstream media to spin this in another way, which is really pathetic and very obvious and on the nose, but well, we are getting used to that, I think. And then in the end, I want to give my opinion on the whole matter, and maybe that might surprise a couple of you because, well, I think that our exotic irregular travelers, well, this year actually I give them half a reason for acting the way they did. I don't want to excuse anything they did, but let's just say I never understood it, I never condoned it, but this year, 2022 to 2023, this New Year's Eve, I actually give them half a point for their anger and frustration. But before we get into all of that, I want to thank my supporters and my subscribers once again. Thank you so much for your great support in the last year, and I'm really humbled and thankful to your continuing support of my work here on this channel. If you find my material useful or only entertaining, like, share, and subscribe. Check me out on other social media platforms also. And if you want to, you can support me via Patreon or Subscribestar. The links are in the description box down below. Alright, this time I really had to rewatch a 14-minute video I had done 3 years ago, almost exactly. It was on the 5th of January 2020 when I was in Japan, and I made a video about the incidents that had happened on New Year's Eve 2019, just 5 days ahead of that. From Japan, I made this video. I was filming from the bank of a beautiful river, and I was talking about pretty much the same stuff that happened once again now, and this is why it wasn't hard to make the prediction. I really had to re-watch the video so that I don't completely repeat myself. So if you want to know how New Year's Eve is celebrated in Germany, you can basically just rewatch my video from 3 years ago. But for those of you who don't want to do it, well, the important thing is in Germany we are allowed to have private fireworks. We can buy a couple of days before New Year's Eve. We are allowed rather safe fireworks for private use, and then people can just light up these firework items as they please during their private parties. And normally that is not a problem because Germans are used to that, and German families are rather responsible when it comes to having these New Year's Eve celebrations, including a private firework. However, just the same way as it was 3 years ago, our dear new friends, our new Germans, our irregular travelers, our exotics, well, they don't really have this cultural background. They don't know how to behave, and they use these things in a rather aggressive way. And just like 3 years ago, once again, they attacked, well, representatives of the state, as they say. They attacked law enforcement officers, but also, and this is much more critical in my opinion, they attacked firefighters and also medics. Yes, they attacked ambulances. That is absolutely crazy. You know, there might be dangerous situations in Germany during New Year's Eve. A lot of people are partying outside, fireworks, drinking, and so on. And then they call medics or the firefighters. And it happened this year that the people who were deployed in order to help others were ambushed by these exotics. They were attacked and threatened in very violent ways. They were even robbed. The exotics also attacked public transport like buses. They threatened families with little children. And this happened mostly in Berlin, but also in other larger cities. In contrast to that, in smaller towns, villages, and the rural parts of Germany, it is very, very peaceful. I myself celebrated with my family, and it was very peaceful in our community. And people, they even tidy up the streets, they sweep the streets, and they pick up the litter and the debris from the fireworks the next morning. It's very cultured, very civilized, and very peaceful. No problem whatsoever. But these exotics, and I've seen the videos, I didn't see a single German in these videos. And for 4 days, or let's say for 3 days, the authorities didn't say a word. They said something about the horrible incidents, but they didn't say who the perpetrators were. Only just now on the 4th of January, I mean, they had the data on January 1st because there were arrests being made in Berlin, for example. I think 145 people were arrested, and these arrests were made once again in the morning hours of the 1st of January, so they had all the data readily available. They just didn't publish it because, and that is their strategy. They want to stay vague and they don't want to say who it is, and they wait a couple of days until it's not really in the news anymore, and only then they publish the important facts. And now they had to say, well, it was actually out of these 145 people, only 45 had a German passport, and that lets you know everything you need to know. It means probably that not a single ethnic German, not a single indigenous German was probably among these people, because when they say it like this, they had a German passport, well, you know as well as I do that everybody who wants a German passport gets a German passport. So they probably all are exotic xenoi, and not one of them is, in my opinion at least, until someone shows me the data, I don't think a single ethnic German was among them. Or, and that is a possibility, they were left-wing radicals, left-wing criminals. In Leipzig, I reported 3 years ago, in Konnewitz, there were a lot of ethnic Germans. Yeah, they're communists, and they also do the same thing. They also attack firefighters and law enforcement and ambulances, medics. Yeah. So, and then our mainstream media tries to spin this, of course. First of all, they withhold information. They don't ask any questions, but I have to be fair here. There was a very funny scene on our public broadcasting when a news anchor, a certain female, asked a self-appointed expert who the perpetrators are. The response of the so-called expert was a little bit like this. Well, yeah, it's really difficult to talk about these issues. I mean, certainly there are some group dynamics involved, and then, well, it is really young people and frustration, and it is just really easy to get firecrackers in Germany. So, yeah, that is pretty much what he said. So basically, he didn't answer the question. But an experienced observer of the current state of Germany knows instantaneously, of course, who these perpetrators are when the answer to this question on public broadcasting is, as I just indicated, by my absolutely flawless reenactment of the expert's response. And then the left-wing newspaper Die Zeit is also really funny. They are saying that, well, out of these 145 arrests in Berlin, actually 139 of them were men. So when you ask who the perpetrators are, well, they're men. Yeah, really? That's so surprising, given the fact that most of these exotics who just came in an irregular fashion to our shores are young men. So what a surprise. And then there is also a little bit of additional information that I do not want to keep from you, and that is the fact that the state in Berlin said before New Year's Eve, it was a couple of days earlier in the old year still, they had a very bold and important announcement to make. They said that we shouldn't call them Southerners anymore, in German Südländer. Now we should really talk about Western Asians, because Southron or Südländer or Southerner is stigmatizing really, and it is really much more accurate to invent a new word for no. So I have two things to say about that, and that is of course, making up a new word because the old word became stigmatizing. Well, that is really stupid, because it's stigmatizing for a reason, and it takes 3 days before the new word becomes stigmatizing again, because you are still referring to the same group of people that no self-respecting German likes. But the second thing I want to say is that West Asians is actually the better term, because Südländer was used after World War II to refer to Portuguese, Italian, Greek, and Spanish guest workers. They were Southern Europeans, and we used the word Südländer for these people. But when we say Südländer, or when the newspaper says Südländer nowadays, we know that it's not Italians anymore. The meaning has shifted, and Südländer now means people from the East, actually. It's not even geographically correct. So West Asians is actually the correct terminology, I would say. It's much better suited to refer to people from the Levant and Asia Minor, and so on and so forth. It's Western Asia, sure. Why not use this word? Südländer is really misleading because it was used for Southern Europeans for a very long time. But anyway, I really want to say that as humorous as certain aspects and all this spin doctoring in the media is, let's not forget that people were harmed. People who tried to save lives were under attack. They were ambushed by vile criminals. And this is no laughing matter. And it wasn't a laughing matter 3 years ago. I just knew that the last 2 years were not that severe because there was a lockdown. So that means that all these event planners and party people from all around the world, they took a little break in Germany. But since there is no lockdown anymore really in Germany, now they could vent all their anger and frustration and their disdain and hatred for Europeans and for Germans. But there is one thing I want to say, and that is that they have half a reason to be frustrated and angry. And that is that when you look at the way that the German state has been treating people in Germany, not just Germans, but people in Germany over the last 2 years in the context of this health scare, yeah, I can somewhat understand their anger, but at the same time, I have to say that they are the privileged ones. They get the easy treatment. Germans, ethnic Germans, were under much more pressure from the state. They were really oppressed. And these irregular travelers get preferential treatment, and the state looks the other way systematically. They do not check them. They do not check their businesses. They do not check what they are doing. They look the other way. And that is the preferential treatment that they got. So I would say what they had to endure at the hands of the German state was 100 times less than what an indigenous German person had to endure in these last 2 years. But nevertheless, even that 1% of oppression, I would say, yeah, well, they have half a reason to freak out a little bit, but the way in which they did it is of course appalling, and I'm not condoning anything they did. I'm just saying that, and I repeat myself deliberately here, I would say that in light of the transgressions of the German state against the population here, with all these lockdowns and all these masks and all this nonsense, yes, I understand the frustration of these young people, at least partially, but what they did here, how they target normal Germans, how they target families and first responders, is absolutely appalling, and our politicians better do something about that. But I conclude with a statement about these politicians in Berlin. Well, they are from the SPD, from the Communist Party, and from the Green Party. Of course, they are just the politicians who continuously import, fund, and protect these vile criminals at every step of the way, so don't expect them to do anything. What they're doing now is they browbeat average Germans now for wanting to light fireworks, as is our tradition here in Germany, and it has nothing to do with fireworks, the fact that fireworks are available. Well, fireworks were always available as far as I can think back, and we never had issues like that unless Mrs. Merkel opened our borders in an illegal fashion. So, to sum up, I did a similar video 3 years ago. It was almost the same situation. I predicted it in a Telegram post a couple of days ago, and now in the usually delayed fashion, the German state and the German media, they little by little announce what the actual thing is that went on. Just think back of Cologne, where it took like a week or so before the facts actually came to light. This is why I waited a little bit, because I know that whenever something like this happens, the German establishment, they have this tactic to delay the publication of these facts in order to make it go away, or as we say, das Gras über die Sache wächst. They want grass to grow over the affair. That's a German figure of speech. And of course, we see once again that if you import people from certain countries, well, then you start step by step creating an environment. You create a culture, you create a society like in those countries where these people come from. Wow, who would have thought? Bummer. I wish you a great new year. Servus, Kameraden.